Hello, welcome. We've got just a mere 2 weeks now to go to the NFL draft. Things are really heating up, and myself and Mike are going to run through some running backs. Round two for running backs. This will be the O-line, and then just a couple of nice safety prospects that we like. And looking forward to the draft, Mike. Not long until we'll do the mock draft ourselves.
Yeah, no, the much anticipated over/under annual mock draft extravaganza is just around the corner. I think we almost got to 3 hours worth of content last year, Tom. So it's a little bit self-indulgent, but I think people can expect more of the same because it's one of the favorite things we do every year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is nice to have all the hard work pay off in the form of a 3-hour draftathon.
Agreed. And we'll just go over some positions today that we're a little bit less versed in. Well, the running backs you're pretty versed in, but some of this other stuff here I think it's hard to evaluate for people like us who don't have access to the All-22 film very consistently. Very tough to evaluate offensive linemen, for example, but we'll do our best just from what I've been reading and seeing around the internet. So we'll try and give the people a steer here.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, how are we going to? Are you going to bring up the prospects on what website we're going to look at?
So we're going to go. Yeah, we're going to go with Dane Brugler's top 100. He has just released The Beast. Feel like we should give that a plug because we're using all of this probably illegally. So he has got his 400 prospect Beast up here, which I'll show you here. Detailed notes on every draft eligible player, including like place of birth and stuff. So I'll be combing through this before draft night, but that's we're not going to go through all of that detail today because we just don't have time. So we'll just stick to the top.
All right. Well, I mean, kicking it off here, Bijan. I mean, there's not much more to say about this. We already said previously he's the best prospect we've seen in quite a while, but probably the best running back prospects in Saquon. Just looking at maybe a couple of landing spots for him, we were thinking maybe the Patriots at 14 could be a good fit. I think he's going to fall outside the top 10, so New England there at 14. Maybe Detroit at 18 if he's still there. And certainly Seattle at 20, I think, could be looking at him. I think that's about the range for him here.
I think so, yeah. You'd have to think of where the need scheme and sort of spending that much money on a running back contract all marry up. So I think for scheme, you have to look at New England. Obviously Green Bay, but they've got two great backs. But yeah, you're probably looking at New England, Washington, Detroit, and Seattle there in this kind of region. Any higher than that, I think, would be a legitimate draft night shock. But we've seen it happen before, Tom. We've seen it happen on many occasions. So I'm absolutely fascinated to see where he ends up because I think he's for me, he's the number 2 overall player in the entire draft. So it'd be really interesting to see where he actually lands, given the devaluation of the running back as a position in the NFL.
Absolutely, it should be very interesting. Looking forward to following that one. And then if we just break down, so he was when I initially came up with my first list, maybe 2 months ago now. Aging ourselves here, but that he was number 1 then, so he's still number 1 now. There wasn't any doubt about that. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the next prospect. So I had him 4 before, but he's gone up to 2 now. But that is with a bit of a concern for me. The size is a slight concern there. So I don't know if we can get up his actual size here, but under 200 pounds. So the workload might be an issue for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do face this. There are smarter people than me doing this who had him as a 2 back. So I'd be happy to keep him there. He's obviously run behind a good line at Alabama. He's had a lot of time to grow there, and he's looked good. But again, that's Alabama running backs are sometimes flatter to deceive in that system, running behind that line. So there's more concern here for me. Certainly a round 2 pick here for me, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't look any higher than that for a running back. Unless they have an exceptional skill set like Bijan Robinson. So I think, Jahmyr Gibbs will see himself go somewhere in the middle of that second round. I'd be looking for a team maybe like the Bengals or the Bills to come up from their lower second round pick into the middle of the second round and take him. because he won't need to be a bell cow in either of those offenses, and he does have a rounded skill set where he can catch the football. Pass pro is going to be the thing that will decide how effective and how much he sees the field as a professional player, because that frame, you wouldn't typically see someone succeed like that in pass protection in the NFL. But he's gonna have to do it if he wants to be a 3-down player for one of those teams that I just mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. Right, third on my list, who was number 5 initially. Now I've moved him up because I do have a soft spot for this guy, but it's Mohamed Ibrahim from Minnesota here. And speaking of someone who can anchor at the point of attack in the pass block, he's certainly a lad who can do that. Now you're going to have to go down here a bit, Mike, because I don't think other people are as hot on him as I am.
He's not even in Dane Brugler's top 100. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to try and have to find him on the beast here. Where have I? How do I do this? I actually
Control F on it.
Here we go.
Nice.
So where do we have him? Mohamed Ibrahim as number 22.
Okay.
He's got him as a 7th round prospect. Tom, goodness, you've got, but don't be perturbed by that, because obviously we get all pros in their career that start off as undrafted players, and really what we're talking about here is players that we think are going to be successful pros. So
exactly. Yeah.
Just because you don't agree with the consensus does not mean that you should change your evaluation of the player. So let's have a look at him here.
No, 100%. And he's an absolute bowling ball here. He's got good enough size to play. He played his college career about 210 pounds, so size is certainly not a concern. As I mentioned before, he's good in pass protection. That's one of the things a lot of scouts have said about him. So the concerns here, why he's down at 22 for Mr. Brugler, it's going to be the amount of carries, the sheer workload in Minnesota is huge. But with that workload,
looking there, 867 carries.
With that workload, he's I believe he might be the leading rusher of all time. He certainly put there's an absolute mammogangian body of work there. But I just like this guy as a true between the tackles back, and I see the game projecting well at the NFL level. I see he should be, his pass catching isn't his job, but I'm not rating him as a top running back in the draft because of that. He's just a guy who can come in and pound the rock for you. And I think if you get 4 or 5 years out of him, what's left on the tires, pick him in the 2nd, 3rd round. For me, that's probably where I'd pick him. I think that's a good pick for an organization. I just really like watching this guy play. I saw him at the Golden Gophers, trucking people, running people over, a bit of shiftiness as well. I just love that size. 5'8", 210 pounds. I mean, absolute wrecking machine there.
Yeah, just under 5'08", so 5'7.5", 203 pounds. So that's an ideal size. There's a statistic on which I don't have to hand. I'll try and get it together for the mock draft, but the amount of players that make their 2nd NFL running back contract that are under 100 and under 200 pounds is very, very small. Like they just all universally, you have to be over 200 pounds to be a successful NFL running back, like an every down back, not just like a kick returner and a 3rd down back, like to be an every down player. So it's really, really interesting that. And I think you're right. The frame does have to be taken into account. It's what concerns us about Jahmyr Gibbs, as we just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that topic, I've got a bone to pick here. I want to see where Brugler's rated Devin A-Chain here. Number 4. It's for me, that's not right. It's, as you said, he's well under 200 pounds there.
Look at that.
I mean, really good. Really, you're going to only use him as a receiving back at that size. And people love his speed and stuff, but we've got to remember Texas A&M have produced a few running back prospects over the years who've done nothing in the NFL. And I'm not sure. I'm sure he'll be an intriguing weapon, but I don't know how you can rank him below Ibrahim on the stats and the size and probably the potential of playing in the NFL. I just don't see it myself personally. So look, I think he's is a fast player. You can get the ball in his hands and you can do some stuff. He's got a good knack of making people miss, absolutely. But I'm not sure how many snaps he could play in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a very slender frame. You can just see that it's a totally different kind of build. Some of to some of the backs we looked at earlier.
Yeah.
It's the 40-yard dash time, which will get him drafted in the top 100.
Yeah.
As long as I imagine they'll be using him on returns and stuff. I mean, that is electrifying speed from a running back. But yeah, as you say,
Yeah.
I mean, can you really use a top 100 draft pick on a player that will get 10 snaps a game potentially?
Yeah.
If he's not going to be used in pass pro and you can't use him on first and second downs regularly, then it seems an odd one to me. But yeah, I think he seems like a very fashionable pick at the moment in that top 100.
It does, yeah. So yeah, I would be interested to see who takes him and where, because yeah, for me it's overrated. But alas, I won't dwell on that too much. That was just a little bone I had to pick there. Thought you might enjoy that, Mike.
Bone of contention. Oh yeah, for sure. As like I was just saying about the when we're looking through the beast there, like if you're lower on a player, you should be lower on him. Ultimately it's about finding players that can play professional football. So if you're
absolutely.
I would happen to agree with you on A-Chain. I'd have serious concerns whether he'd have the durability to have a long NFL career, certainly.
Yeah. So he was actually 9 on my initial list, and he's been bumped down to 10 now. So I've kind of stayed the course on him. I haven't really changed my mind in too much. But the last 2 lads I'll speak about here, they've now moved up into my top 11. I just really hadn't seen them at all. I've gone through and watched their tape. And the first one of them is Tajay Spears. I know you enjoy as well here, from the Green Wave, the mightily improved Green Wave football program there. I love this guy, over 200 pounds, good size, makes people miss, and a hell of a receiving threat. Some of the catches he makes are wonderful. And it's watching him kind of reminds me of having like a 99 speed back on Madden, where he'll get the ball and just hit the hole, and defenders are just left flat-footed because of the speed. I think he's run a 4.4 here
literally
at his pro day on combine.
You just beat me to it. I was about to come and find him. Tajay Spears. Oh dear, sorry. No, so pro day was didn't run at the combine, and then he ran a 4.52 at his pro day.
So maybe a little quicker, maybe quicker on film than he is in a straight line, which isn't a bad thing. I certainly got the impression he was one of the quicker backs I've seen. And he's been in a winning program, which he's a lot of the reason for that. They really fed him the ball. They got the ball in his hands on little swing routes, running through the tackles, and he was a goal line threat for them. So for me, he's a 3-down back in the NFL, and a really good pick. They have him 5 there. I got him 4, so that sounds about right to me.
Yeah, and you look at that size, just a shade under 6 foot there, 201 pounds, prototypical NFL size. And I really enjoy watching Tajay Spears. I think he's my number. He's probably my T2 back with Jahmyr Gibbs. I love him. He's a slashing kind of player. As I was saying to you before we jumped on this call, Tom, I can see him in a sort of a Shanahan wide zone system, just taking it.
Oh yeah.
Either busting it round the corner or cutting it back for a huge run, just one cut and go, just electrifying gas. And obviously, when you're born in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, as well, you have a soft spot in my heart as well. What a place name Ponchatoula is.
Absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, very great. I mean, no reason to hate him at all from us.
No,
I mean, yeah, no. I really like him. And when we do our top 5, it'll be interesting to see where we split him and Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know, maybe give him the nod. But alas, we'll get to that. And then Zach Charbonnet is going to be number 5, who's come in here. Also late because I just didn't watch any Pac-12 at all last year. And you might not blame me for that. But he's a bit more of a bruiser here, Zach Charbonnet. Ran a 4.53 40, as I can see there. But yeah, really, really good at making people miss. Just a nice straight line runner with a bit of side-to-side twitchiness as well. Seen him catch the ball a few times. That's not a concern. Not sure about the pass protection. Haven't looked into that too much, but I think as a real bruiser, I think he's the option here for you to tote the rock on first and second down. Kind of, he looks good running the ball as well. Similar to Tajay Spears, just watching him run. Not quite a slasher, but a very fluid motion when he runs, and just enjoyable all around.
Yeah, no, I actually saw more of him in 2021 than I did in 2022.
Mm.
I saw three UCLA games on repeat actually the next day because obviously it's on ridiculously late in the UK, the Pac-12. And he was just a constant threat in that zone running scheme, in that spread Chip Kelly offense. He's a real threat, hard to bring down. Really reminds me the guy out of Boston College now plays for the Packers, the big man.
Adrian Dillon.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
That's who he reminds me the most of.
yeah,
Maybe a little bit smaller because he's a big unit, but a little bit small, but very similar one cut runner.
yeah,
That seems to be quite fashionable in the NFL with the proliferation of these zone running games. So, but with
yeah,
that size, you could also use him as a more gap scheme downhill thumper as well. So
yeah.
he has good flexibility. As you say, pass pro. Yeah, they get five out in the route at UCLA. They don't leave many into block. It's out the quarterback's hand pretty quick normally. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's probably would need a lot of refinement there. But you know that's why he's not a first round player.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then just my other prospects, I won't go into them in detail, but so Charbonnet came up into the top five for me there. I had a six, I had Kendre Miller from TCU, Chase Brown, Illinois. That's pretty much where I had those guys to start. And Chris Rodriguez Jr. out of Kentucky, a real bruiser. Talk about a bruiser, hit my word. So he was eight. Deuce Vaughn, I really moved down quite a bit. Just I didn't quite understand how small he was. Absolutely amazing production in college from Deuce Vaughn there in the Big 12, but yeah, just too small. I couldn't have him in the top five as I did initially. He was 9 for me. I still put him above Devon A-Chain though, just because I was annoyed at how highly people rated Devon A-Chain. So he's 10.
Really surprising on Deuce Vaughn. He only clocked a 4.56, which that's surprisingly slow 40 time for him.
I thought, yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised by that. My goodness.
Yeah, 179 pounds as well. Oof.
At
That's
5'5", it turns out that's quite a stocky frame actually, but yeah, just still not
yeah,
quite big enough to
yeah.
to make it probably. I don't know what you could do with him because he was a between the tackles runner really, so it's kind of hard where he'd fall. But you know, as I said, the production was amazing in college, so I'm sure he has a role somewhere.
Yeah,
And then
the Eagles had that back, Donnell Pumphrey out of San Diego State. We took him either in the seventh round or he was an undrafted free agent about 4 or 5 years ago. And he was a
yeah,
very similar build. And he was their all-time leading rusher and he was a lot of it between the tackles, but he was tiny. He just
yeah,
never even saw the field for the Eagles. He was
yeah.
it was a non-event when he got to the pros. And just that size is very worrying. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he'll even go that high, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a shame. And again, I don't know. Just I feel bad for Mohamed Ibrahim here to have him not rated higher than Deuce Vaughn is a head scratcher for me as well. But alas, then Tank Bigsby rounds off my top 11 there. They're just more than name than anything. But yeah, a decent running back out of Auburn who probably will get picked somewhere in between rounds. I don't know, 4 to 7.
Yeah, I mean
a good NFL kind of maybe third choice running back or something.
Yeah, his grade is just really, as you can see here, based on the 5'11 and a half, 210 pounds and a 4.45 40. I mean, that is just human beings just aren't supposed to do that. So he's obviously I've seen him a little bit at Auburn. He's an absolute the Tank is I don't know if he was christened Tank or whether he's just picked that up as a nickname, but that is could not be more apt. Either.
Yeah, excellent. So, yeah, that's my final kind of list on running backs there. So yeah, I mean, the real movers for me was just Deuce Vaughn coming down, and then Tajay Spears and Charbonnet getting chucked up there. But overall, pretty happy with that.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't quite decided what we're doing yet, have we? On the consensus big board, we'll do a consensus big board with top fives at each position. We'll either get it out on Twitter or we'll do another pod about it. But we'll get it out somehow, and we'll see how they all stack up in the once I've had my 2 pennies worth as well, Tom, as we say over this on. So I thought for me this week, I'd have a little peruse of the offensive line. So no actual film watched, but I do have some expert. Oh dear me, I seem to be in the comments section. That is not where you ever want to find yourself.
Well, you could really have your tuppence there.
Yeah, yeah. So as I was saying, real sources are the various podcasts we listen to, cut-ups that I've seen online, but also the Bootleg Football podcast, and most importantly, Brandon Thorne, who does the Trench Warfare newsletter, and he also puts up quite a lot of good Twitter content with cut-ups of players and pro players as comparisons, things to look for, things that you should value in offensive linemen, and I tend to trust his opinion. If people are watching us and they want to know a bit more about offensive line in general, you should really go over to Brandon Thorne's page as well, because he coaches a lot of these guys in the off season, the pro guys. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. So we'll start off very quickly, and I think this will be a really interesting one off the bat. We'll start with offensive tackles, and we'll start with Peter Skoronski, best technician in the draft, sweet feet, good hand placement. Really interesting to see what teams make of him. He measured in at under 6'3" in the end, I think. Okay. And you see here, he's not even listed as a tackle in the beast by Dane Brugler. I think he'll have him as the number 1 guard. He does. So that is really interesting. So no, it comes in at 6'4", which is much more what you'd expect. Weight is also fine. The arm length is the issue. So 32.25 arms is just a bit of an outlier for Pro Bowl caliber offensive tackles. Sorry, in the history of the NFL. So people are kind of knocking him as maybe he's a convert to guard. I don't know. I think if you're a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who he's kind of a designer pick to the Eagles at the moment at number 10, just because he's the best offensive lineman available when they pick normally. The Eagles would play him at guard because obviously got all pro caliber tackles, but I think I'd like to see him start at tackle, just like his former Northwestern teammate. I think you had a really high grade on the tackle from Northwestern last year, Tom. Went to the.
It wouldn't be last year; it'd be the year before. The lad who went to the Chargers.
Yeah, 2022, and his name has absolutely disappeared out of my head.
I've forgotten as well, but he was absolutely one of my favorite tackles in that class.
Yeah, and he was a very similar build. So maybe if you can Google that for me, Tom, while I'm running through the rest of these, and we'll come back and give him his due. But he's very similar build to Skoronski. So I think, and he's
Rashawn Slater.
I just remembered it as you said it, Rashawn Slater. Yes, I got there in the end. So he came out in 2020, so very similar player. I think he'll be a successful pro wherever he plays, but if you want to slide him into guards, slide him into guard. It's horses for courses for a lot of these guys. So I'd agree with
the Bears at 9, I think makes a lot of sense for that. Just get the best player.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Yeah, no, the Bears, absolutely. They badly need offensive line help. And if he doesn't start out great at left tackle, then you just simply move him to one of the guard spots and probably become an all-pro for you. I think Daniel Jeremiah put it the best, where he said he could be a Pro Bowler at tackle, but he could be a Hall of Famer at guard. So it kind of, if you don't have any tackles, you're obviously going to play him at tackle. But if you've got a good tackle pairing already, you could come in and be just a real luxury pick for a team that's looking for a top quality guard. So yeah, that's the first one off the board. Probably I want to talk about my 2 favorites after Skoronski. Obviously, Brugler has Paris Johnson, who we'll come back to very quickly. But my favorite is Darnell Wright, who plays exclusively right tackle. Tom's laughing here because I think he already knows why I like Darnell Wright. So Darnell Wright is an absolute bear of a man, Tom. He's an absolutely enormous man. I don't know if the beast. I don't know if the beast will.
Loves to take people and run him into the ground.
Yeah, here we go. 6'5", 333 pounds. There, Tom. Still running a 5-second 40.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, and more more standard NFL arm length there at 33 3/4. The floor really is about 33 and a half for Pro Bowl caliber tackles in the arm length, inches wise. So he is an absolute bear of a tackle. He's really, really solid in pass pro. I don't want to take that away from him, but what he is more is a very good run blocker, and he's very chippy. It's an attitude for him. He's vicious blocking, and I've seen every snap that he took against Will Anderson when they played him last year, when they played against Alabama, and he allowed 0 pressures against Will Anderson. He is exclusively a right tackle, which is probably why Bruegel has got him down at 24. He's never played any other collegiate position. You'd normally like some left, right, maybe some guard flexibility if you're taking a player up in the top 20. So I think he might fall a little bit, but just in terms of who I think is going to be, who I'd be really confident in being my franchise right tackle, I'd say Darnell Wright is the one that jumps immediately off the screen to me.
And I like the fact he's got a niche for himself there, right tackle. Actually, for me, one of the things to look at is, has someone really got a hold of that position and made it their own? And I think he absolutely has. I don't think that's a knock on him from my perspective at all, given his physical and kind of just the way he wants to ruin people in the run game. It's excellent. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm just looking at my notes here because I knew that I was missing something. So Brandon Thorne, one of the things he said he really looks for in NFL linemen is somebody that can absorb force. So someone that comes in with that power rush, just stonewall it, doesn't move. And he said Darnell Wright does that better than anyone in this class.
Oh, wow.
So I think that tells me that he's got the power and he's got the balance that you need to play tackle in the NFL, which is just a huge, huge part of it. Yeah. Broderick Jones, slightly different kind of player. You can just see from the build. He's a lot more longer and rangy. He's not so much of a bender. He doesn't bend as well as you would ideally like. But what he is the best run blocking tackle in the whole class. And he's also the best in the screen game. So working in space, getting out. They often use him. They often use him on lead plays where he sort of he gets out in front of a screen. And they also will run zone plays to his side as well, so he can really get out on the perimeter and take safeties and cornerbacks out of the game with blocks. So scheme specific, I think he could be a Pro Bowl caliber player as well. I'm looking at, and to be fair, I can't take all the credit. I've seen this mocked a lot. The New York Jets at number 13. In that Shanahan zone running scheme, just getting him on edges and getting out there and being a threat with his athleticism does really look appealing. Obviously, you can see here, 21 years of age as well. So he's played in big games. He didn't allow a single sack last year. I didn't even know that. So in the SEC, so he's a very, very solid player, and I would have him as one of my top 2 or 3 tackles. Paris Johnson, I've seen as kind of the consensus top tackle. A lot of people preferring Skoronski at guard. So Paris Johnson he's not the most refined run blocker in the world, and he is not the most powerful. He's a little bit stiff and upright. You can even see it in this shot of him here. Not a natural bender. He's quite long and thin, which makes it hard to get into that power stance that I've heard Jason Kelsey talking about. That's so essential to playing offensive line in the NFL. So I think he's got real refinement to do in those parts of the game in terms of a pure athlete. And I think I saw it earlier. There's a line in Brugler's Beast article about Paris Johnson Jr. That I think he said his athleticism gets him out of trouble. So, and that is, big fluid man who maneuvers well in space. His athletic gifts aid his recovery. So I think that's an interesting thing that we haven't spoken about yet when we're talking about offensive linemen. Is it's such a different game to the college game. It normally takes a year or 2 to adjust, unless you're like a Tristan Wirfs or one of these absolute freaks that come in and do it straight away. So how do you adjust? Can you rely on your athleticism while you learn the position and you learn how to be a professional player? And I think he's the highest floor of any offensive lineman in this draft, just because he's got the athleticism that you need to survive, even if he's never going to become a plus run blocker or a plus screen blocker or just one of your he might move to right tackle, for example, rather than being your left. But I still think you're going to get a starting caliber player at the very worst, which somebody who is tackle, what's the word I'm looking for? Tackle sparse as the Chicago Bears. I think I could see them going for Paris Johnson Jr. over Skoronski just because they're guaranteed to get a starting offensive tackle, almost guaranteed. There's never guarantees, but almost guaranteed to get a tackle, and they just need a tackle more than they need a guard. So that might take me towards him rather than Skoronski, which I just think is interesting. And then there was just one more honourable mention that I wanted to make on the o-lineman. I didn't think he would necessarily be on the top 100. So it's Matthew Bergeron here from Syracuse. I had never seen him play in my life until a couple of days ago, but I've just been watching a lot of Brandon Thorne's cut-ups and highlights online of Matthew Bergeron, and he is nasty. He is a horrible, horrible player, like dirty in the dirt, scrapping with people, throwing punches. He's got like a real battling mindset, which I really like, and I think is you've seen that from some of the best offensive linemen to have played. Is that just it's a lot of it is about mindset. So I wanted to give him an honourable mention. I don't really know a huge amount about him, but when you see that 6'5", 318 pounds and good arm length, and that kind of desire and that kind of want to makes me very optimistic for his future. So yeah,
that could be a nice little replacement pick there for the Tennessee Titans, actually, with their current tackle. I've forgotten his name now, but he's a lot of injuries for Taylor Lewan. That's it. The talk that he might not be long for the NFL. That could be a nice like-for-like replacement there. Second round value, not bad.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be a very good value. Or in the first round, I'd probably say Darnell Wright is the most similar profile to a Taylor Lewan. But he's, as I said earlier, he's exclusively right side rather than replacing Lewan at the left tackle. So yeah, I think someone might come in. I think I could easily see an NFL team falling in love with Bergeron and coming back into the first round for him ahead of like a DeJuan Jones or an Anton Harrison, because they're just so raw. I won't get into them now because we haven't got time, but I think Bergeron I wanted to make Bergeron my honourable mention at the end of the tackles.
Absolutely, that's great.
And
just so just a couple of safeties to pick up on them, like to round this one off. And I guess we'll start with Brian Branch, who's pretty much our unanimous first choice safety. There he is, and one for the Athletic as well. Just probably the most well-rounded. That's really the reason why when you're looking for safeties, looking for people who can break up the passes, cover a little bit. Probably not able to cover tight ends, I'd say, man coverage, but few can really these days. And just a great tackler. I believe there's some intriguing tackling stats on him that you've been prone to, Mike.
Yeah. So I heard Daniel Jeremiah on Move the Six podcast. I was listening today, and he said that Pro Football Focus chart missed tackle percentage in the NFL, and I think in college football. They've only been doing that for like 6 or 7 years, but he has the lowest missed tackle percentage of I think it was 2.3% or something. Less than 3% of his tackles are missed throughout his college career. And he actually had his best missed tackle rate this year as a senior. It was 2.1% or something. So he just does not miss a tackle, which any of our longer term listeners or viewers or even short term, we've probably mentioned it in this draft process. That is our biggest bugbear, is linebackers and DBs that can't tackle. So I think Brian Branch is an incredibly solid player. The reason I wanted to look at him on here rather than the top 100 is just to highlight where we think the weaknesses and where people have sort of uncertainties about him, which is height, 5'11" and a half, maybe a little bit less than you'd like. Weight, definitely lower, 190 pounds. You'd want that more like 210 pound kind of range. And at the 40 time, 4.58 is not what people were hoping he would run. I think they were hoping he'd run more towards 4.52, 4.5 flat. So, But I don't know. I tend to trust the film rather than the combine measurables with him, Tom.
I think so. Yeah, I think coached by Saban, you can't really go wrong if he's the first safety prospect. I think he's going to have a good football head on him. I think someone like maybe even the Patriots as high as 14. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him pick him out the blue, or maybe the Giants even to come and play in Wood Martindale's system. That could be quite an intriguing prospect for them there.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
He can play man coverage in the slot. He did it in that star position for Nick Saban at Alabama, so he can do it. Would be a good fit in any sort of strong man coverage scheme.
Yeah, great.
So
And then it's good to see JL Skinner.
We've got a minute and 50 seconds, so you've got a minute and 50 seconds for your JL Skinner loving, Tom.
Well, good to see him number 6 on here. So he is rated highly. I'd probably have him. I think I said I'd probably have him in our top 50 just for posterity. But a good Boise State player. They're the biggest safety in this class by some distance, and the best tackler. I suppose Brian Branch is technically the best tackler, but JL Skinner has a habit of absolutely knocking people flat and coming face to face with the running backs and putting them in the dirt, which I love to see. They have him more as that sort of safety who can come up in the box as opposed to sitting back and maybe playing a bit of a robber in coverage. He did have 4 interceptions in his senior year, which it's good. It shows improvement for him, and a couple of big time interceptions to close out games. So that's that means something. But really, you use him as a run stuffing safety. And I think he's essentially another linebacker with his want to hit. So I watched a few interviews with him where he was saying that was always his goal when he was growing up, was to just make sure people didn't run over him and that he delivered the first hit. So you love to hear that from a safety. For me, he's probably a top 50 prospect for me, just because I think him and Devin Witherspoon was the film I most enjoyed watching this year, to be honest.
Look at that. 2021 led the team in tackles and forced fumbles. Lovely to see. Really delivering, bringing the wood there, as you mentioned, Tom. So, I think we'll be back with some top 5 shortly.
Yeah, excellent. Go well. We'll put out a few more pods and tweets before the mock, but otherwise we'll mock next weekend. So I'll see you then, Mike.
Go well. Ahoy.